Hey everybody, I just got back from seeing Sailor Moon S the movie in theaters, and let me tell you, it was amazing. Anyway, let's get to the manga. Summer sales have been really good to me. I have a lot of manga to share this month, so let's go ahead and get started with Cardcaptor Sakura Clear Card Arc Volume 4. Now, let me be clear, Clamp Syndrome has not hit yet. The series is still good, which I'm really excited about. However, if I'm going to nitpick just a little bit, things seem easier for Sakura this time around. Like, in the original series, in Cardcaptor Sakura, she had to, think through her problems, like a card or spirit would attack, and she had to be like, okay, how am I going to solve this situation? In this one, she kind of just solves the problems without thinking. Like, a maze appears suddenly, I think in, Volume 3, and she just says, oh, my instincts tell me to go this way. And she just kind of automatically solves the problem, where in the previous series, there was a maze situation that she actually had to have somebody else help her out with. So, just a little bit of a nitpick, really not that big of a deal. The art's still pretty. I'm really interested to see how this series is going to turn out, because Cardcaptor Sakura is all about the plot twists, and the current twist situation is really confusing. Even I'm just kind of stumped. So we'll see what happens. So far, so good. Next, we got Children of the Whales Volume 2, and just look at this cover. It's just so gorgeous. The art in this series is amazing. This is the reason to check out the series. However, I will say, just a little bit of a complaint. The reason why I don't have more of this series is just because it's so slow. It's hard to explain why, but the series just kind of sits there. I think the problem is that most of the series takes place on one location, and the characters are really just kind of talking to each other and not really doing much, which some people really, really like, but I'm kind of like, all right, let's get on with it. What are we doing? Where's this series going? So I haven't been as invested as usual to pick up more volumes, but it's pretty. I'll say that much. Next up is Dead Demons Destruction. Hope I said that right. Man, what a mouthful of a title. So this is by Asano, who wrote amazing series such as Solanin and Goodnight Poon Poon. This is one of 3 recommendations I'm going to make today. This is a must-have, absolute must-have. I will warn you, and they put a very, very small, it's kind of hard to see, explicit content warning on the top right. This is a series that's not for children. Do not buy this for children. This is for adults. Even though it's about teenage girls, it has a lot of adult themes in it. Definitely not as hard-hitting as something like Goodnight Poon Poon or Solanin, but this series, it has some hard feels in it. It's also very, very political, and I don't really want to get into that too much because this is not a political channel. But if you're into politics, you will see some themes pop up hardcore in this series. Again, absolute must recommendation. You must have this. It's incredible. Next up is Kaguya-sama Love is War. This series is very interesting. It's a very spicy series. This one was a recommendation by my good friend Ian. Basically, it's a comedy shoujo. It's about the president and vice president of a student council who are both madly in love with each other. The only problem is they're both super competitive as well, so they don't want to admit their love for each other, because they feel that if they admit their love for the other person, it would be a sign that they have lost or they have given up to the other person. It's really weird. So the whole series is a bunch of one-shots of them trying to basically make the other one confess or do something that would reveal that they loved the other person, and it's hilarious. The various members of the student council are also very funny as well. I particularly like the secretary, who's featured on Volume 2, and the male character who was introduced in Volume 3. I'm excited to see where this series goes. I don't know if I'll collect many more volumes after this, because again, it is kind of a bunch of one-shots, which means the series probably doesn't evolve plot-wise very much, but we'll see where it goes. Either way, it's a hilarious ride, and it's a good recommendation, I feel. Next up, we got One Piece, the Color Walk Compendium Volume 1, covering East Blue to Skypiea. If you're not a One Piece fan and you don't know what these are, this is basically a giant art book compiling the first 3 art books of One Piece. So all those beautiful chapter covers, you got them here. They're gorgeous. I mean, I love Oda's art. Oda's art is simple, but it's really fun and really detailed. This one is definitely worth the pickup, if only for, I mean, of course, not only the art, but the interviews, which are located at the back of the book. There's one interview that Oda does with Akira Toriyama, the author of Dragon Ball, and it's so interesting to read, especially because Oda does it like at the beginning of his manga career. So like he's all young and giddy, and Toriyama's just kind of like, he's just kind of this veteran who's like, wow, you're really excited, aren't you? And I was like, yeah, I am. Like, so it's really, really cute to read that. I don't know if I'm going to pick up the next one, considering I own 2 of the 3 art books that are going to be compiled into the next one anyway. But for now, this one was a definite must-have for me. And it's really cool to see how far One Piece really has come. Next, coming over here, we got Land of the Illustrious, the number 2 out of 3 must-have recommendations out of the volumes I'm going to share with you today. Land of the Illustrious Volume 6 is amazing. If you've seen my videos before, you would know that Land of the Illustrious is like one of my favorite series of all time. It's just gorgeous. It's one of those rare ones too where I actually recommend reading both the manga and watching the anime, because they're really 2 completely different experiences, especially since the anime is done completely in CGI. As I've talked about in the past with Volume 3, I said Volume 3 was like the make or break volume for the series, where if you read Volume 3 and you didn't like it, you definitely wouldn't like the series. Volume 6 is kind of a similar volume where something huge happens in this volume that basically changes the series forever. And it's so worth the wait. This series is incredible. If you haven't checked out Land of the Illustrious, please do. It actually has probably one of my favorite manga pages of all time, this volume in particular. I'm going to be vague to avoid spoilers, but there's 2 characters who are basically both experiencing the loss of their best friend, and they come together to talk to the sensei character, and the sensei tells them basically like this very profound thing, like for them to remember about anxiety, about depression, about getting through loss and disappointment. And you got to read it. It's a must read for me. Yeah, that's Land of the Illustrious. Next we got My Hero Academia, volumes 5 through 7. And now I know what some of you are thinking, CJ, My Hero Academia, everybody loves it. It's such a normie series now. Well, excuse me, I still love it. Just because something's popular like Attack on Titan doesn't mean it's bad. I really don't like this attitude that a lot of people have been having about some of these series lately, where I'm like, okay, this series is successful and it's really popular and a lot of people like it, and now it's just suddenly turned bad for that very reason. I just don't get it. But anyway, My Hero Academia for my junior high students is kind of like how Naruto was for me back in the mid-2000s. For a lot of kids, this is basically their Naruto. This is their start into anime and manga. So I bought these volumes specifically for my classroom shelf. I'm just going to be basically transferring them right to my classroom shelf in August. I don't know if I'm going to be buying any more of these, because one of the major problems with shonen titles is that there are a lot of volumes in these series, like a lot. And I don't know if I can even afford to collect more of My Hero Academia. It's a great series though, always a high recommendation for me, and Bakugo best. Everybody can fight me. Next up, we got My Hero Academia Vigilantes. Now, this is a side story about unregistered heroes, so basically illegal heroes. This also features the My Hero Academia version of Batman, who's called Knuckle Duster, who is an incredible character. The Crawler is really, really fun, too. Funny story, I actually found a guy at a comic convention who was dressed up as the Crawler, and I went up to him and was like, oh, you're the Crawler, right? And he was like, oh my gosh, you're the only person who knows what I am. Everybody keeps calling me All Might, and I felt so bad. But nevertheless, I bought this volume because I was like, oh, my students are a really big fan of this series. It'd be cool for them to read something that was in the same universe but was different. But, and I really do mean but, yeah. So Pop Step's art at the back of the volume basically guarantees that this will never enter my classroom. I'm really sad about this, considering especially that it's rated T for teens, so it has the same age rating as My Hero Academia, yet they put this art at the back of the volume, and I can't have this enter my classroom. It's just as simple as that. That really is upsetting. And I've seen comments on the internet. People have been complaining about this back cover where they're like, really? I get this is probably not Viz's fault. In fact, I would actually argue that it definitely isn't. But I'm just so sad. I'm so sad because I wanted to share this so bad, and because of that art, I just can't. Next up, we got One Punch Man. Oh, what a great series. Little odd bit of trivia. I actually watched this particular volume cover get drawn live, which Murata, who is the artist of the series, does live broadcasts of him doing this manga. I definitely recommend you check them out if you get a chance to see them. They're really, really cool. It's really cool to see like how much work is put into this manga. Volume 14 ends the tournament arc. So now we're really, really getting into some deep stuff in the manga. Now, I will apologize. In a previous video, I said I was really excited for Volume 14 because it featured Watchdog Man on the cover. That's Volume 15, so I'm sorry about that. But it's still a very cool cover. Still an amazing series. Always, always, always a recommendation for me. Next, we got Princess Jellyfish. Hello, Princess Jellyfish. Now, this is kind of odd talking about this series again, especially because I said in a previous video that I was kind of tired of Princess Jellyfish at this point, and the story was too slow, and I wanted it to basically pick up the pace. But then I realized there was only 2 more volumes left, so I just went out and got them. It's good. Again, coming from someone who is a bit of an otaku herself, it's really cool to see nerd characters represented positively, where it's like, yeah, they're still nerds. Yeah, they socially isolate themselves. Yeah, they can be really weird, but they're people too. So it was really cool to see like an honest depiction of a nerd, basically, house where all these girls were living together, obsessing about their different things. Princess Jellyfish was really fun. I have a feeling that the ending was rushed, because the ending just kind of comes in out of nowhere and the series just ends. And I was like, oh, okay. But other than that, it was a lot of fun. I really don't like that they weren't clear on the relationship status of 2 of the characters in the end, being vague for spoiler reasons. But I really don't like when shoujo manga does that. I'm like, tell us they got married or just have them not get together. One or the other, please. I can't handle this. And finally, the third of my must-have recommendations, The Promised Neverland, Volume 4. If you haven't checked out Promised Neverland, you need to. Like, it's a must-have, like, seriously. This is one of the best series, if not the best series, aside from One Piece, in Shonen Jump right now. And Volume 4 is another, oh crap, things just got real volume. Volume 5 ends the first arc of the series, so this is like right at the tail end of that arc. And man, this is the best stuff of The Promised Neverland so far. I'm a little worried about the series because I don't know where it's going from here. I mean, the best stuff really, really was in the first arc, and things have gotten a little bit more stale. Not terribly. It's still an amazing series. So I'm hoping for the best with it for this series. But for now, if I can convince a student of mine to read this series, that would be great. It'll sit on my classroom shelf until then. Speaking of my classroom, next we got Silver Spoon, and Silver Spoon's kind of a weird one for me because I have this weird phobia about dead animals. Like, I'm terrified of dead animals, like roadkill and stuff like that. And Silver Spoon had literally an entire mini arc about the killing of an animal to prepare it for meat, and I was like, I was like screaming. But it was well worth getting past that phobia of mine just to enjoy this really heartwarming, deep story. You learn a lot about meats and dairy in this story, about the preparation of those products, and it's just really fun. It's packaged into such a nice presentation of really interesting characters and some really deep, hard-hitting moments. Next, we got To Your Eternity. Speaking of hard-hitting moments, this series is about life and death. So expect a lot of death. And really, that's my only complaint about To Your Eternity is by Volume 5, and again, I'm going to be vague for spoiler reasons. By Volume 5, you kind of realize that most of the characters you meet in this series are going to die. Like, most of them are going to die. So at this point, I kind of lost interest. I didn't really get attached to many of the characters anymore because I just knew they were going to die. So why would I get attached? That being said, though, this is probably one of the weakest volumes in the series. Get past this arc and things start getting good again. That's all I'll say about this. Next up, we got the light novels. Hello, beautiful light novels. These are mangoes, but they look like them. So first up, we got Bacano, and gosh, the One Piece Color Walk Compendium just pushed these to the side. These are volumes 4 and 5 of Bacano. Bacano is one of my favorite anime of all time. If you haven't checked it out, please, please do. I will warn you, though, the first episode is the worst of the series, so watch the first and second episode to see if you like it, and then just continue from there. But volume 4 covers the final arc that the anime touches. That's the Dallas and Eve Genoard story, which is, in my opinion, kind of the most boring part of Bacano. So I'm not excited about jumping into this volume, although I understand that literally adapting 4 novels into a 13-episode anime, you're going to lose some stuff. So I'm excited to see some of the stuff that was left out of the anime in this volume. Then we got Children of Bottle, which takes place in 2001. So this story takes place in 1932. This one takes place in 2001. So if you don't know a lot about the series, some of the characters are immortal, so it makes sense that there would be this big of a time gap. But the volume after this, I believe, takes place in the 1930s again. So I'm like, why would the author jump ahead that much? I'm curious. We'll see how it goes. Next up, we got Magical Girl Raising Project, which I've talked about this series before. Again, it's really, really, really good and really, really, really bad at the same time. It's like a healthy mix of amazing, outstanding moments and then a lot of cheese. So I got volumes 3 and 4 here, and 3 is just the second part of part 2, which is Restart, which in my opinion is way better than part 1. I'm sad there wasn't an anime made of this story in particular. And then we got Episodes, which is individual stories about characters featured in part 1 and part 2. So I haven't read Episodes yet, but I did finish this volume, and it's amazing. If you're a fan of magical girls, if you don't mind them having to kill each other, this is a series for you. But it is bloody, it is gory, so just a warning going into that one. Thank you so much for watching my video. Thank you especially to everybody who has stuck with me on YouTube throughout all of these years. You guys continue to be an absolute delight. Now is the time where I ask you to leave your pickups in the comments below. What did you pick up this summer? I love reading your thoughts on not only series that I enjoy to read, but series that I have never heard of before. And you guys have recommended some really, really cool stuff. Until next time, this is CJ, signing off.